This is the Troll Patrol
Best of.
with Justin FREAKIN.
This is the Troll Patrol, not live. This is the best of the week. Check out the best clips from the show throughout the week. Check out the live show every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Here we go. But I would like to start off the night by playing a clip from last night's show.
What the Democrats did in this election, which is to misuse the absentee ballot process and the mail-in ballot process in order to cheat. So they really cheated in two respects.
No. They leaned on mail-in ballots because we're in the middle of a goddamn pandemic, and I'm amazed that Rudy hasn't tested positive yet. He's been flying all over the place, holding press conferences next to a dildo shop. I've never seen him wear a mask. He was even at the White House super spreader events. I don't think Rudy is human. I think he's some kind of a lizard person. Now, after watching that video, I think you guys can imagine what I'm going to say. Now, while Rudy has not tested positive, Rudy Giuliani is currently in quarantine. I'm not sure he's human, though. So, I'm not banking on him dying from the COVID. But let's run down the list of people who we found out today have tested positive for COVID. Starting with Donald Trump Jr. has tested positive for COVID-19. Florida Senator Rick Scott has tested positive for COVID-19. Now, it's a Friday. One of the reasons why I think the news is coming out today is because a tactic of politicians is to do what they call a news dump on Fridays. What up? Glad to have you back. Because people are out, I don't think people are out partying tonight because, COVID and everything. Stupid people might be out partying tonight. But usually people aren't paying attention to the news on Friday. So shit that they want to sweep under the rug, they usually throw out on Fridays. News like Rudy Giuliani's son has tested positive for coronavirus. Also, when I saw pictures of him, I thought it was Eric Trump. Like, what a weird looking guy. I'm not one to talk about other people's looks, because shit, look at me. But he's definitely got a very Beavis kind of look to him. Now, after all the news of the positive tests came out, apparently the Trump legal team wasn't in the White House when the GOP representatives met with Trump earlier today. Michigan's top two legislative leaders vowed that the presidential candidate with the most votes will win the state's electoral votes after departing a Friday meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House. Now, even Sidney Powell was on Fox the other night. It seems to be what they're going for. They're wanting to try to get the electors and Republican state legislators to flip and give the election to Trump, despite the fact that Trump lost the election by a significant margin. It's looking like Joe Biden is going to win by about 6 million votes in the popular vote. His count is up to 80 million now. But these motherfuckers were flown to the White House today to meet with President Trump for what I assume was Trump trying to badger them and pressure them But the mayor of Sterling Heights, Michigan, said today that Trump is deliberately lying to Americans about the election. He absolutely is. So is Trump's legal team. We've gone over, and man, like, I cannot, over here on the parlor, I cannot tell you how many people just like, this was me responding to a right-wing, I can't remember who it was, Ryan Fournier. I have no clue who he is. I was responding to him. Sidney Powell stands by fraud allegations, willing to stake her personal career. Huge! My comment was, let her say it in court then, under penalty of perjury. Now, the other day, somebody on Parler was like, I don't know what a pre-jury is, but a jury would find that this election was full of fraud. And I'm like, oh, God. As I always say, right-wingers are morons. Alex Jones had his bullhorn out this weekend at the MAGA rally.
On notice that you tried to steal our election and the whole world's awake and America is not putting up with it. And we want the Supreme Court to stand on the rule of law. The Democrats are trying to harass and threaten all of Trump's lawyers to quit because they're scared. Because the fraud of
They keep saying Supreme Court. These motherfuckers have absolutely no clue how our court systems work. They think Amy Coney Barrett can just step in and wave a wand and make Trump president. That is how stupid these people are.
Dominion Software and Staple Street and all the rest of it have come up. And so the globalists have desperately tried a new hoax that Biden is the president-elect. He is not the president-elect. He's a Chinese communist agent that's going to prison. Yes, sir. The globalists are on notice of their foreign coup and the Chinese communists celebrating what they've done. Joe Biden is a communist Chinese agent and is going to prison. And we the people tell the federal government it is your constitutional duty to protect
a Chinese communist agent.
Our enemies in the media claim Trump was a Russian agent with no proof. We have total proof that Joe Biden is a communist Chinese agent.
There is plenty of proof that Trump was, I don't know about working on behalf of Russia, that he was like an agent or some Manchurian candidate or some shit. But here's the Mueller report that I already have highlighted. Russia's two principal interference operations in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, the social media campaign and the hacking and dumping operations, violated U.S. criminal law. Numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. The evidence was not sufficient to support criminal charges because the investigation established that several individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign lied to the office.
Joe Biden is a communist Chinese agent. Joe Biden is a communist Chinese agent.
As far as I know, there is no business dealings between Joe Biden and the Chinese, but there are plenty between Trump and the Chinese.
Joe Biden the winner, despite the fact that massive evidence of fraud has come forward, and the attempt at the coup.
What evidence?
Country is not going to happen. All you've done is awoken the sleeping giant, and the war. And the war to restore our republic has.
The sleeping giant. The silent majority. They have such weird ways of referring to themselves. As if this motherfucker hasn't had a bullhorn yelling for 20 fucking years.
Just begun. Joe Biden tried to steal this election because He's paid for by the globalists, and they know that they are in trouble. But the people are awakening. USA! 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 And we come here today to put the globalists and the Chi-Coms.
Did Alex Jones just cough as he's there in a giant gathering of people during a pandemic? Alex Jones gets the COVID. That's my next prediction for 2020. Oh, wrong one. Jesus Christ. I was going to show you video of the president driving by the MAGA rally on his way to play golf. But I copied the wrong link because I'm stupid. So instead, let's watch this video from Fox News.
Party leaders about this. I've said.
So this is, who is this guy? Anchor Eric Shawn, somewhat shaken, responds to a show's live B-roll. Okay, so I don't know who this guy is then. So yeah, watch this live shot that they have of the MAGA rally and look at one of the signs they spot.
I've talked to Republican Party leaders about this. I've said to them, you're going to be in office a long time after President Trump is. The Republican Party is going to long outlast all of us. Aren't you concerned about that? So that's what somebody's going to have to convince the president of. The president isn't a long-term thinker. They're going to have to convince him that it's in his
God, he's
own
not a
interest.
long-term thinker.
What he responds to, like what is in his interest to
just say we
go
just
ahead.
We just saw a very disturbing sign. It said, "Coming for blacks and Indians, welcome to the New World Order." I mean, who the hell knows, what people have and what they say on these things? But what do the Republicans tell you? When does the president start to perhaps give a different?
Like, well, I'm a little concerned by that sign I just saw, and then transitions right back to the Republicans.
Another type of message. And what do you say to the viewers watching right now?
Here is MSNBC. They were covering the rally. I'm gonna have to wait for an ad. Now I'm playing you all these before we get to the claims that some Trump supporters were attacked at the MAGA rally over the weekend. We're gonna watch that video that was widely circulated on Twitter.
Now, several pro-Trump demonstrations taking place across Washington, D.C. The president's supporters are there protesting what they call a fraudulent election. Let's go to NBC's Ellison.
Protesting democracy is what they're doing.
Ellison, welcome to you. Describe the tenor of things there right now and about how many people you think are in that crowd. It looks right behind you sparse.
When did Beverly D'Angelo start working for MSNBC?
Yeah, walk with me a little bit and I'll show you exactly how far it is. Whoops, sorry about that. We'll watch out for bikers as we do this. But if you look back here, you can see the crowd. It's hard to see exactly how far they go back there through the buildings. But if you take a look in here, you can see all of the flags. Gives you a sense of just how deep and how far back this crowd goes. I met a woman here this morning who told me that she drove from Florida, and she said she wanted to be here to show support for President Trump and also to protest what she believes is an fraudulent, unfair, inaccurate election. So you can see all of the people still gathered back over here. We're staying a little on the perimeter of the group simply because there aren't a whole lot of masks being worn within the crowd here. But this is an event that was organized by a number of different groups. We started seeing posts on social media. It seemed to originate with a group known as the Proud Boys saying that they wanted people to come out to this rally. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because President Trump mentioned them in the first presidential debate. They are a far-right extremist group. We saw dozens of them gathered near us just before this live shot having some sort of talk. You can hear, I'll show you what it feels like here. The crowd here is chanting fake news, fake news. Not
at her.
As you can tell, which that's fine as long as they give us a little bit of space. So at times it's hostile here, at least for us. They're following us and chasing us as we walk further back. They say that this election is fraudulent. When I asked someone earlier today if there was anything that would make them accept these results, they said they would maybe accept them once they were certified, but they still wouldn't believe them. This gives you a sense of the crowd here. They have no intention of accepting the election results. And as you
They have no intention of accepting reality.
They're not fans of ours either. Alex?
Yeah, but
They're not fans of ours either. No. They're not fans of anything that tries to poke a hole in their bubble. Now, she mentioned the Proud Boys. As I understand it, every extremist white supremacist group in America was in D.C. over the weekend.
Today, November 21st, 2018, I'm officially disassociating myself from the Proud Boys.
So that was the former leader of the Proud Boys. After that, they, what was this guy's name? Enrique Tarrio has been the leader of the Proud Boys up until this little split. Infighting has broken out between two leading members of the Proud Boys group, with one announcing he will be taking control of the far-right organization to address white genocide and the failures of multiculturalism. Kyle Chapman, who set up the tactical defense arm of the Proud Boys, has criticized the group's chairman, Enrique Tarrio, while announcing a so-called rebranding of the organization. Writing on encrypted messaging app Telegram, Chapman used racial slurs against Tarrio and other neo-Nazi rhetoric while announcing that the grifting leaders had been deposed and the group would be renamed the Proud Goys. A term sometimes used by white supremacists to signal their anti-Semitic beliefs. Due to the recent failure of Proud Boys chairman Enrique Tarrio to conduct himself with honor and courage on the battlefield, it has been decided that I, Kyle Chapman, reassume my post as president of the Proud Boys, effective immediately. Our logo will forthwith be changed to reflect the core beliefs of Proud Boys members. This is the best line. We will no longer cuck to the left by appointing token Negroes as our leaders. We will no longer allow homosexuals or other undesirables in our ranks. We will confront the Zionist criminals who wish to destroy our civilization. People tell me that the Proud Boys aren't a Nazi organization. So, now that you have all that in mind, you know the groups that were in D.C. over the weekend. You know the kind of shit they had on their signs. You know what they were doing to the reporters. Now, let's watch this claim of violence against Trump supporters in D.C. So I've only watched a second of this video so far. That is the violence that we see, somebody getting slapped in the head.
Get the fuck out of here!
Who I assume deserved it. You gotta love the way that dude was wearing his mask like a chin diaper. He had a mask on, but it wasn't over his fucking face. So that little girl. Now hold on. I'm thinking this is on a. Yeah, this is a right-wing reporter here. Multiple Trump supporters assaulted by pro-BLM supporters. Was brutally knocked out. This little tiny ass girl was slapping them around because they were probably saying some Nazi shit.
Run away, dude. You touch.
Get the fuck out.
Everyone is like me. Get out. Kill that. None of you want to fucking do that. None of you.
So wait a minute. This dude looks like he's a right-winger.
You touch.
Get the fuck out.
Everyone is like me. Get out. Kill that.
So wait a minute. This looks like he was one of the counter-protesters and that he's the one getting assaulted. I think I got this right because, like, the little black girl comes to his aid. So this looks like the violent dude to me. Oh! Yeah! Yes! He totally instigated that. He deserved that. So the video they posted, a right-wing reporter, to prove violence against right-wingers, showed that the right-winger had it fucking coming. Let's watch that again. That was fun. Let's make sure we see the whole thing here. He looks like he's the one. This guy's just walking around with the bullhorn. They're assaulting him. And then somebody's in the background yelling, "Kill him!"
Do that. None of you want to fucking do that. None of you want to fucking do that. Separate everyone. Hey,
Ooh! Oh, that was great. Oh, somebody stomped him in the head. What do you guys think? I think he deserved it. I think he was the instigator, and he got what was coming to him. Play stupid games.
he's got internal maybe in his brain. In Jesus' name. Lord, please. Thank you, Lord.
He had something wrong with his brain before he took that spill on the ground.
Get him over here.
The people you wanted to fight.
You gotta get him over here. I got you. We got you. Back up. Why you guys letting this happen, dude?
Like, I didn't get that wrong, right? That wasn't my personal bias. That dude instigated every bit of that and got what was coming to him. Now, apparently there were some stabbings that happened over the weekend. I didn't find footage of those. They might exist. But now, Bevelyn Beatty and the chairman of the Proud Boys, who was with her, told police they were both stabbed. I don't know if this happened over the weekend or if this is from over the summer. told police they were both stabbed by people associated with Black Lives Matter in a street fight early the morning after the presidential election. So this was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. The Metropolitan Police Department repeated their claim to media outlets, leading to headlines around the country claiming Black Lives Matter had attacked the Proud Boys. But there is no evidence Black Lives Matter had anything to do with the incident. And if it's like the video we just watched, they probably had it coming because they were doing some Nazi shit. Police officials have since walked back their initial statement, saying it's unclear whether anyone involved was affiliated with political groups. But, I mean, obviously it was the Proud Boys, the neo-Nazi organization we just went over. But the department's willingness to echo the accusations of the Proud Boys is another example of law enforcement's deference to the group. This is the Enrique guy holding up the white power that they've kicked out for not being Nazi enough. This group has been involved in all kinds of violent activities, and it seems that law enforcement's response to them has been reluctant. Do you know why? Because cops are fucking Nazis. They support these people. The worst person in the world, Mitch McConnell.
Certainly, there is no time to waste. Kentucky just announced our highest ever weekly count of new positive.
Certainly there is no time to waste, despite the fact that there are 3 bills that have been sitting on your desk since May. God damn.
Certainly, there is no time to waste. Kentucky just announced our highest ever weekly count of new positive cases. The numbers are troubling in places all across our country. So for now, our job is to continue doing all we can to stay safe and slow the spread.
But they're like, he's from the party that is doing everything they can to fight mask mandates, to not pay people to stay home. I can't believe that we're in a world where we've actually got people, I get messages from bars, comedy clubs, like, hey, we've got this going on this weekend. Holy shit, there's a pandemic going on. But I understand you have to make a living. If the government isn't going to take care of you, what other choice do you have? But as I've said to small business owners, what are you going to do? You're going to open up? People aren't going to want to come because it's a pandemic. The people that do come are putting themselves in danger. What happens when there is an outbreak in your bar or restaurant? What happens when your servers, your bartenders get it? You're not paying for their insurance, are you? You don't offer benefits to a fucking minimum wage worker, below minimum wage worker if you're a server. Are you going to pay for their hospital stays when they get the COVID? I never get an answer from these people about this. It's obvious that the government needs to step in. We need rent freezes, we need mortgage freezes, and we need to pay people to stay the fuck home. But you can't convince Mitch McConnell of that. Now maybe
term unemployment that's
President-elect Joe Biden, and he is president-elect. Despite what your right-wing friends might be telling you, maybe President-elect Joe Biden has a little bit better plan to deal with this.
growing fast right now. What would you do right away, specifically, to address jobs that may not return for months, may not return ever, including in communities of color?
What I would do, I would pass the HEROES Act.
Thank you.
It has all the money and capacity to take care of each of those things. Now, not tomorrow. Now.
Tell that to your buddy Mitch McConnell.
The president is still playing golf and not doing anything about it. Is beyond my comprehension. You'd at least think he'd want.
I thought you guys have been doing a really good job of keeping the numbers down in California.
We have a problem with long-term unemployment that's growing fast right now. What would you do right away, specifically, to address jobs that may not return for months, may not return ever?
Now, we're also facing a housing crisis, especially come January when the CDC guidelines expire. There is going to be mass evictions in this country. And Biden is still not going to be the president until January 21st. As if we can expect him to do anything. Because remember, the Obama administration came to power during a financial crisis. And the only thing they were able to muster was bailing out the banks. They didn't follow Robert Reich's recommendation to actually give money to the people and let the people pay their bills. Instead, they just bailed out the banks and let the banks do mass evictions, creating yet another bubble that we're getting ready to see pop right now. I am under no illusions that Biden will be good for this country. He's going to stop the bleeding that we have right now. He might be able to get coronavirus under control, but I mean, shit. Listen to this nurse talk. And when this is what we're dealing with.
Even now, the hospital is being overrun with COVID patients. They come in. They're horribly ill.
Listen to what she says about the patients she is dealing with on their deathbed.
I think the hardest thing to watch is that people are still looking for something else, and they want a magic answer, and they don't want to believe that COVID is real. And the reason I tweeted what I did is it wasn't one particular patient. It's just a culmination of so many people. And their last dying words are, this can't be happening. It's not real. And when they should be spending time FaceTiming their families, they're filled with anger and hatred. And it just made me really sad the other night. And I just can't believe that those are going to be their last thoughts and words.
They are filled with anger. They are filled with anger and hatred because dumb fuck right-wingers have told them to be filled with anger and hatred. And they've been spoon-fed. I can't talk tonight. My computer crashing has completely thrown me off. They've been spoon-fed just a steady diet of propaganda for years now. Years. That conform to their already held beliefs. And that's another problem with fucking capitalism in this country. Thanks to capitalism, you can go and get whatever media. I'm sorry. Oh, shit. They have been spoon-fed a steady diet of propaganda for years. And thanks to capitalism, you're able to go and find whatever your flavor of media that you want that conforms to your beliefs to fit your feelings, not the actual facts at hand.
Anger and hatred towards you?
I think it's just
thank you.
A belief that it's not real, and nursing happens to be on the receiving end of that. And that's okay. We can take that. That's what you're there for. It's just in the bigger picture when you try to reason with people of, can I call your family, your kids, your wife, your friend, your brother? And they say no, because I'm going to be fine. And you're watching their oxygen levels, maxed out on what we call vapotherm at 100%, and their oxygen level might be 75. That's not really that compatible with life. And we know where that's going to head. And it just makes you sad and mad and frustrated. And then you know that you're just going to come back and do it all over again. And that's kind of where that stemmed from.
That's what, my heart goes out to healthcare workers right now who are having to deal with all this bullshit. Not only are they dealing with a pandemic, they're dealing with so much misinformation it's not even funny. So of course I'm going to follow up by showing you a video from Fox News full of misinformation. This is Tucker Carlson. I believe this was Friday night.
More than 1,000 restaurants have closed in New York City, not because people stopped eating, but because the city and state have crushed them with coronavirus.
Crushed them.
But that number apparently isn't high enough for some.
The city and the state aren't crushing them because of the coronavirus restrictions. The federal government is crushing them by failing to provide relief, Tucker. No matter where you pause a Tucker Carlson video, he is always making one of the craziest faces.
Some politicians in New York, they've
Watch, we're going to do it again.
all bars and
It's almost the exact same face. Oh,
after 10 p.m. unless
that
it's
furrowed
for
brow.
a dance party celebrating.
His face always cracks me up. I'm sorry.
Joe Biden. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. That, according to the Party of Science.
I keep having dreams that I walk out of the house and forget my mask, which I never do. I rarely leave the house, and when I go, I always have I have surgical masks, and they come in like packs of 3 or 4. I'd like take a whole pack with me every time I go out. But yet I keep having these weird dreams where I leave the house without my mask. I have no clue why.
The Festival restaurant in New York City opened a couple of months ago, even though
Howdy, partner.
everything it can to wreck his livelihood. At the time we spoke to him a couple of months ago, he said New Yorkers will survive. Are they? Tyler Hollinger joins us tonight. Tyler, thanks so much for coming on. How are you surviving? And do you expect
Tucker, it's so good to be on the show again.
Thank you.
Tucker, first off, I want to say...
I mean, seriously. Do you get a lot of New York City guys with the metrosexual haircuts and the denim and the bandanas around their necks? Is that a look you see a lot in New York City?
You. And I wanted to say thank you to your community. Because after I came on the show the first time, the overwhelming support, love, compassion of your community, buying gift cards, coming to the restaurant, was absolutely mind-blowing. And
Good.
It is a testament to the beauty of humankind that we look after one another, and I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for saying
Secondly,
that.
You're getting all teary-eyed. Oh my gosh.
You have the most amazing viewers, and this kindness is overwhelming, and the gratitude is amazing. De Blasio and Cuomo will not stop us.
Do not give your money to this grifter. Look at how nice that restaurant is. Give your money to local businesses that actually need it, not this faux cowboy that goes on Tucker Carlson's show.
Let's be clear. They will not stop New Yorkers. They will not stop New York businesses because they are temporary individuals. And the businesses and the people that live in New York
They're going to be very temporary when they die of coronavirus.
That's such a nice point. I wonder, in the short term, though, they're still here. Can you make a living if you have to close at 10, 10 being the hour at which coronavirus becomes dangerous, apparently?
Oh, my God.
Yes. Apparently, those out...
That is called a straw man argument.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Which one? Which one has a punchable face?
to dine late are just going to come an hour early on top of the people that are already there. So what you've created is a bad situation for more crowding as opposed to allowing people to spread out over time, enjoy their meal. Now people are going to be more on top of each other, which is insane. This government just allowed 1,000-person rallies to happen for Joe Biden all over the city, but yet you can't have Thanksgiving for 10 people? Something is...
Holy shit. No, they didn't allow. First of all, like if you're out in the streets, that is constitutionally protected speech. They didn't just allow it. Like there weren't rallies for Joe Biden. People were just so happy that Trump lost because of his lack of leadership during coronavirus that they were out in the streets celebrating. Now, I didn't do that. One, I think it's kind of absurd to celebrate Joe Biden. I voted for him, but I'm not celebrating the fact that he's going to be the president. I'm not a fucking sycophant. You want to talk about rallies? Stay tuned for the MAGA rally. We're going to play some video from that here in just a little bit.
Very, very wrong.
You make such a good point about forcing people to eat in larger numbers when you constrain when they can eat. Did you tell the city that or the state that? Did they consult you before shutting down your business at 10 p.m.?
We got to talk about it, though.
The city has no interest in hearing what small businesses think. Every day we are visited by another government official trying to shut us down, trying to impose fines, legislations, restrictions, when we're just out there keeping people safe. And this is the hypocrisy we are living in right now. But I can tell you one thing, the power of love.
He said hypocrisy, didn't he? He said it in a very interesting way. The power of love. He's getting ready to talk about the power of love. It's going to conquer the coronavirus, I guess.
Us down, trying to impose fines, legislations, restrictions, when we're just out there keeping people safe. And this is the hypocrisy we are living in right now. But I can tell
hypocrisy.
you,
I'm gonna start saying it that way.
Love, the power of kindness and respect for one another trumps anything that any of these politicians.
If you have kindness and respect for one another, wear your fucking mask and don't go the fuck out in public right now.
Want to say, because it's about neighborhood and it's about community and protecting those who you love.
That's an inspiring thing to say and a great thing to hear. Tyler Hollinger, we are rooting for you.
It's a bunch of bullshit to say.
About this, Tucker. I refuse to be negative. Oh, and we have a drink for you. A Perrier waiting when you come.
Well, Tucker ain't coming. Tucker isn't in the studio in New York City right now. Tucker has been doing the show from his house. Because Tucker ain't going to your little restaurant. Tucker understands the danger. Even though he's on a show spewing bullshit. Tucker is a fraud. Now, this is Chuck Schumer on Friday.
We also need help for our restaurants and our independent venues, all of which are in the Heroes Bill, which passed the House.
In May.
In an effort to compromise took $1 trillion off.
You say Tucker doesn't have sex, but he has at least 3 children, I do believe, that look literally like the children of the corn. It's freaky looking. Look up Tucker Carlson family. It's... And I think the kids all have the furrowed brow, too, when they're looking at you.
Restaurants and our independent venues, all of which are in the Heroes Bill, which passed the House. Speaker Pelosi and I, in an effort to compromise, took $1 trillion off that Heroes Bill and said we're willing to compromise. But Leader McConnell has not done that. He said he has 20 members of his caucus who want no money, despite the greatest economic crisis since the Depression, the greatest health care crisis since the Spanish pandemic flu. 20 in his caucus want no money. Leader McConnell should say the heck with you.
Now, here lately, it seems like Chuck Schumer, who is usually very absent from the public eye, it seems like Chuck has grown a set of cojones. Now, I wonder what possibly might be going on in New York that would cause Chuck Schumer to start acting like he's got some balls. Now, word going around is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez might run for his seat. He's up for re-election in 2022. And he's seen some of his friends get beaten by progressive challengers. This is how you move the party to the left. Primary the hell out of these motherfuckers. Let's get started. 2022 is our year. Do you think that they were still pushing the conspiracies and the lies?
Breaking news now. Dominion voting systems say they categorically deny any and all of President Trump's claims that their voting machines caused any voter fraud in key swing states. Or
of course.
Electoral fraud. But reports contradict that claim. In 2016, a senior executive at Dominion told the Illinois State Board of Elections that it is possible to bypass their election system software.
That
Here's
it's
what
possible.
the Vice President of Engineering at Dominion at that time, Eric Coomer, told the
Hey, Lou Dobbs, it's possible there are pink unicorns on Mars. It's possible.
board during a meeting in good old Cook County.
No, we are not allowed to do routine updates without having to go through a recertification effort, but we do routinely give guidance on how to best secure systems, and also going back again to the final mitigation against all of this is a robust auditing and canvassing process, which all of our jurisdictions have implemented.
Coomer said no updates can be done without recertification, as you heard. Mr. Coomer's assurances of a secure system, however, are contradicted by the fact that various vendors, election officials, and others reportedly can access the voting machine code without an update being required. And we know that there were updates on those machines a day before the election. Well, joining us
I would
tonight
assume
is Sidney Powell, a member of President Trump's legal team, General Flynn.
A member of President Trump's legal team. Remember, this is a lawyer turned fiction writer, which is exactly why she is perfect for the bullshit they're spinning.
Defense attorney, a great American and prominent appellate lawyer. Great to have you with us, Sidney. Let's start with Dominion.
And they didn't even mention that, like, she hasn't practiced law, like, other than defending Michael Flynn. Like, she's been a TV producer and a writer for the past 20 years. Maybe longer. I think it went back to the 90s. She just takes on these bullshit cases to try to raise her profile amongst the MAGA people.
Disavowal of any claim of fraud against the company, its software or machines. Your reaction?
Well, I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact
Hulk
that
Hogan may be a great American. Terry Bollea is a piece of shit.
Results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries.
Now, I've started doing some digging about the Hugo Chavez shit, and like, this is some report from back in 2006 in the New York Times that, like, it's this contracting company with Dominion. Like, I haven't even been able to piece it all together yet. This company that Dominion is contracting out to had some people from Venezuela that worked for their board.
This one, it was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. So if you want to talk about foreign election interference, we certainly have.
Now, that they're also, apparently this Dominion company was counting the ballots in Germany or some shit, because they just want to throw out different countries, it appears.
It now. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems, surprisingly.
Keep that in mind. We're getting ready to play a press conference from the Secretary of State in Georgia, who has been assaulted by people in his own party for doing his job.
Enough. Hunter Biden type graft to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it.
Well, that's straightforward.
There's a hell of a name drop there, throwing out Hunter Biden.
Be quick to go through and to produce that investigation. And
that's what I wondered. I had a conservative friend send me a picture of Sidney Powell. Said she got all kinds of voter fraud evidence. And I said, what? Did she find it on Hunter Biden's laptop?
the results of it. The December deadlines are approaching for electors, and just as we saw in 2000 with Bush v. Gore, how critical are those deadlines, and how urgent does that make your investigation and discovery?
Well, for fraud this serious, I think even if the states are stupid enough to go ahead and certify the votes.
Look at you dropping a tease. Give us a link so we can get up on your stream here after my show.
Where we know the machines were operating and producing altered election results. If they're stupid enough to do that, then they will be set aside by the fraud also. I mean, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. President Trump won this election in a landslide. It's going to be irrefutable. And patriots are coming forward every day, all day, faster than we can collect their information with the testimony they're willing to give under oath.
Like that one dude that we played on Friday, maybe it was Thursday, the mail carrier who overheard a conversation and then recanted his story, then swears he didn't recant, though the transcript has been released of what he told investigators. And he most certainly did recant his story.
About how their votes were stolen and how the machines operated. They were updated the night of the election, sometimes after the election. We've got statistical evidence that shows hundreds of thousands of votes being just put in and replicated. It's going to be, there needs to be a massive criminal investigation, and it's going to affect millions of voters and elections.
There is going to be a massive criminal investigation, but not into what she is talking about. Now, this report came out earlier today that judges appear increasingly frustrated with Trump's legal claims about the 2020 election. And the reason why is because they keep getting laughed out of court. At what point does this get ridiculous? The exacerbated judge, an appointee of President Barack Obama, asked before ruling against the Republicans. Judge after judge after judge has asked, in essence, where is the beef? A reference to what, a 40-year-old TV commercial? Jesus. The Attorney General for the District of Columbia and a frequent Trump critic in a call with reporters said Friday. We have seen numerous instances where affidavits have been filled out only to be immediately pulled back once tested in state and federal court. Central to some of the plaintiffs' claims is the contention that the upcoming election, both nationally and in Montana, will fall prey to widespread voter fraud. This is before the election they were ruling. Said in a late September ruling against a Trump campaign filing to halt mail-in voting in the state. Now they've been throwing legal challenges at this months before the election, and they're keeping it going. Oh yeah. I think I showed the transcript of this. What I have at best is a hearsay affidavit. If there's something in that affidavit that would indicate that the witness observed activity that would be a deprivation of the rights of poll watchers, I want you to please focus my attention on that. I heard somebody else say something. Tell me why that's not hearsay. Come on now. So then once the Trump lawyers admitted, people got to what the poll watchers were allowed in for the Trump campaign. Then the judge asked, I'm sorry, then what's your problem? Before throwing the case out. They have won, I think, 2 cases thus far. And they have all been, stupid. The 2 that they won were just over silly. Got 5 ballots thrown out in one, I believe it was. Now, the Georgia Secretary of State held a press conference earlier today because senators, God, I don't think Perdue's a senator yet. He may be. I don't remember exactly. But Perdue, that's running for the Senate, and then Kelly Loeffler, who was appointed to the Senate, they're both in the special elections in January in Georgia, have asked that the Secretary of State, who is a Republican, resign. I thought I had some video of this. Oh, here we go.
Cast. Right now, Georgia remains too close to call. Out of approximately 5 million votes cast,
Oh, I'm sorry. This was November 6th.
we'll have a margin of a few.
I thought it was him talking about how fellow Republicans are pressuring him to find ways to exclude ballots. The people trying to commit voter fraud in this election are Republicans trying to deny legally cast ballots. We went over it. The old lady in Georgia that they accused her of being dead. The military families that are having their votes challenged for being out of state when they're just stationed out of state. Man, I was only in 6th grade during the OJ trial, and I remember being very exacerbated by all that shit. Even Senator Lindsey Graham has said that he has questioned the validity of legally cast absentee ballots. But now I understand why Trump is so adamant about questioning the results of this election. Because I think he is in serious legal jeopardy should he leave office. As I said, Rudy Giuliani made his first court appearance since I think it was 94 that he had been in a courtroom. Apparently he was a little rusty. So this is Rudy coming out of the court last night.
And how do you, if you lose this one, what's the impact on the presidential race?
Well, obviously, if we lose it, we'll appeal it. Everybody does, right? And then second, there are 7 other cases I have to think about.
Isn't time kind of running thin on you guys?
No. We're still well within the Gore schedule, aren't we?
And are you going to be arguing all the cases from here on out?
Now, remember, Sidney Powell said they had a fire hose of evidence that they were going to be presenting. That was her Friday night on cable news. This is Wednesday evening. What fucking evidence? Where's your evidence, Sidney? Now, let's listen to... Rudy would have been the plaintiff. This was the defense, which would have been on behalf of the state. The guy who argued against Rudy Giuliani in court.
Cartoonishly incompetent efforts to steal the election are not over yet. Rudy Giuliani today appeared before a federal judge in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, to make sweeping and baseless claims. I'm joined now by the attorney who argued against Rudy Giuliani in court today, representing Philadelphia, Allegheny, Montgomery, and Chester counties, Mark Aronczyk. Mr. Aronczyk, it's good to have you on. First, I wonder if we could just start with what was the case? What was the Trump campaign asserting? What was the argument before the judge?
The Trump campaign came in through Mr. Giuliani asserting a fantasy world.
That's what I've been saying the whole time.
That somehow involves 11 different states in a gigantic conspiracy with the biggest cities in the United States all joining.
Only the cities.
To somehow manufacture votes and change mail-in ballots and somehow throw the election to Joe Biden. And I sat there dumbfounded because the story that was presented by Mr. Giuliani.
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
I believe this dude does.
Giuliani bore no relationship to the actual complaint in the case. And, when you're in court, you have to talk about the complaint. You have to talk about your facts. You have to talk about the law. When you're at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, I guess you can talk about anything. There seemed to be no distinction in what I heard today. And I pointed...
And when you're at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, you can bring on your star witness who is a child molester. And right-wingers still take you fucking seriously.
That out very strongly.
It's embarrassing.
So, the complaint, I mean, it sounded like he just sort of gave a kind of Giuliani monologue about all the nefarious actors who are trying to steal the election, independent from whatever the kind of legal claims they were pursuing was. But am I right that the remedy they're seeking here is to throw out all the votes in Allegheny County and in Philadelphia?
Yeah, it was interesting. The remedy kept multiplying as Mr. Giuliani was talking. It started off that he was after 680,000 votes, and by the time he finished his...
just throw out the whole damn election!
I think we were up to 1,200,000 votes, and counting, I guess. It's absurd on its face. In fact, the whole presentation was absurd on its face. But I think what was telling was that when you're in a court and you have to sometimes explain yourself, you have to answer questions that the judge asks, and the judge pressed, is this about fraud? And where is it pled that this is about fraud? And after some hemming and hawing, Mr. Giuliani basically said, no, this wasn't a complaint based on fraud. Instead, it was based on some kind of all I can say is some kind of strange conspiracy idea. But what was also telling was that his opening statement practically was...
I assume that he went into the Dominion bullshit. That seems to be their attack at the moment, judging from right-wing parlor, Twitter, yada yada.
Was that he wanted to amend the complaint again. In other words, they've already amended this complaint once and took out almost everything that they had pled initially. All sorts of propositions fell out of the case. He then said some of that was a mistake. He wanted to put them back in. He wanted to amend the complaint again. It was, the proverbial moving target.
So this dude had so much smoke blown up his ass after 9/11, the America's mayor and all that bullshit. I think he believes he can do no wrong. And these fucking rich assholes, they construct these bubbles. And if you have any semblance of intelligence, the cognitive dissonance is very hard to break through, because you can really make some intelligent arguments about why your bullshit is correct. And if you've been living in this right-wing bubble, which has just gotten worse and worse and worse, and you've had this smoke blown up your ass that you're America's mayor and shit, it results in you losing your goddamn mind. Rudy is batshit crazy. There was an issue in Michigan. I can't remember, Fulton County, I believe it was. Let's we've got the video here, but it's damn it. I think it's Fulton County, which is Detroit. The canvassers that certify the election results for the county, they deadlocked 2-2 because it's 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. And the Republicans were like, oh, we're not going to certify. Well, they got called out, and we're going to listen to them getting called out right now.
We also know that the Secretary of State and the Attorney General have already tweeted out that your legal arguments are rubbish.
They are.
When it comes to court. So we're not worried about that at all. I'm also not worried about any of your...
I think I said last night that Trump was 2-22 in court. I was wrong on that. As of this morning, he is 1-25. in the court challenges. And the one win was just a procedural thing. Didn't get any votes thrown out.
Oh, things are bad, so we can't certify arguments, because that's just ridiculous. You certified in August when they were worse. Less than 50% of the ballots are recountable. Now over 72% are. 58% of them are even balanced, when it was less than 30% last time. So it's doubled. It's gotten way better because the Secretary of State actually jumped in and did her job, unlike you. But I know it's not going to change your opinion.
Now, I'm pretty sure the two people he is addressing are the two people that have pictures up and aren't actually live on the call, so unfortunately we cannot see their faces while they're getting called out. I believe it's this guy and this woman right here.
You talked about not certifying Detroit, even though you acknowledged that Livonia, a city, by the way, I know you know is 95% white, had bigger variances than Detroit, which is 80% black. We understand, and you've now added your name. So I'm not going to try to change your mind. I just want to let you know that the Trump stink, the stain of racism that you, William Hartman, and Monica Palmer have just
maybe I was wrong.
Is going to follow you throughout history.
It's not these two people. Sorry.
Going to think of you like Bull Connor or George Wallace. Monica Palmer and William Hartman will forever be known in southeastern Michigan as two racists who did something so unprecedented that they disenfranchised hundreds of thousands of black voters in the city of Detroit because they were ordered to. Probably, I know, Monica, you think Q told you to do it or some other crazy stuff like that. But just know, when you try to sleep tonight, that millions of people around the world now on Twitter know the name Monica Palmer and William Hartman as two people completely racist and without an understanding of what integrity means or a shred of human decency. The law isn't on your side, history won't be on your side, your conscience will not be on your side, and Lord knows, when you go to meet your maker, your soul is going to be very, very warm.
Now, apparently, that speech had an effect on them because they reversed course. The results in that county have now been certified. Now, I want you to... Because Republicans accuse the left, Democrats, of constantly calling them racist without evidence, yada, yada, yada. We're not all racist. This was the dude's posts on Facebook, the Hartley that he was addressing. So, he's totally a racist. You can't really challenge him on that one. Now, when I first checked the news this morning, it looked like Trump was wanting to recount all of Wisconsin, but that would cost his campaign $9 million. So instead, Trump, who is begging for money right now, the campaign was very cash-strapped going into Election Day. He's actually decided only to request recounts in 2 counties now. It's going to cost him about $3 million instead. Dinesh D'Souza tweeted out a video showing us how bad it really is in Georgia as they recanvass. Now, Trump tweets shocking video from Georgia showing how bad this really is. Now, just like the video of Justin Trudeau that we watched last night, let's watch this and see if we can actually figure out what's bad. I don't even know how to make it full screen. Is this it? Okay. This is on Rumble, by the way. You can go watch my videos on Rumble now, because I do not let the right-wingers have their safe space. I am all over Parler. I am all over Rumble. You guys can't run from me, you fucking snowflakes. So if you want to view my videos on Rumble, I suggest you don't. Rumble is shit. Does not work very well at all. In my 2 or 3 days on the platform, I've gone, God damn, this place sucks. So please, if you want to watch clips of the Troll Patrol, which you can see moments after the show airs, head over to my YouTube channel. But if you're some kind of fucking masochist or some shit, you can go over to Rumble and watch my videos over there. You can just type in Justin Freakin. So this is Rumble, the Nazi YouTube.
So originally, you had said that was the end of it. So what changed?
The recanvassing.
I know that there's in the batch sheets.
So you're missing batches?
No. I got to get the box.
Oh, okay.
They're in 1, 2, 3. They just didn't turn. See how that one's turning and tells me where it is. So we didn't pack our stuff up.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought when you guys had finished completing that box in the other room, you said that was the last of the ballots.
I thought so too.
You thought so too? And then is it the numbers they're getting to suggest that you're missing some, or?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not lining up, but we also know that they're here. I mean,
is it like a precinct missing, or like
no,
what?
No. It's 10 batches. We know they're 26, and when we broke the admin down and did the RLA, we put them into 26 batches.
Yeah.
And my things are only 11 through 26, so I know.
11 through 26. Okay, so you're missing 11 batches.
Yeah, I gotta find my pens.
Okay.
Now I assume these are ballots that have already been counted, and they're doing the recanvass. So this video is supposed to show us how bad it really is. Dude looks organized.
Yes.
I honestly don't know what goes through the minds of right-wingers when they tweet out shit like this. What is this supposed to prove to us? But it's more about messaging. We tweet out a video of a dude shuffling through some boxes and say, look how bad it is in Georgia. And then people fucking retweet it out, never fucking watching the video. I'm sure nobody can explain to me what the fuck about that video proves that it's bad in Georgia. Just like how I will never understand how anyone could look at Ben Shapiro and decide that they were going to listen to him about masculinity.
So a couple of obvious stipulations up front. Men have always done cross-dressing. There have always been some segment of men who cross-dress. Very often it was played for comedy. And the entire premise of Some Like It Hot is that it is funny when men cross-dress. That is not what the Harry Styles photo shoot is about.
Throughout history, gender has not been binary. Natives here in America made trans people chiefs. In India, trans people would be gurus because they had both souls. He is discussing a very Western idea of masculinity.
Right? There have been pop stars who've done this before. David Bowie wearing a dress. They always look like idiots, by the way. They always look ridiculous. But the whole point is to be transgressive. Right? But what we are seeing with the Vogue article is not just an attempt to be transgressive, obviously. It's an attempt to redefine masculinity itself.
Also, I didn't show it last night on the show. I'm not even really sure who Harry Styles is. I think he's from One Direction, if I'm not mistaken. This was his Vogue cover. It's like he's got pants on under the dress. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Here's another shot. And that's not even a dress, that's a kilt. And I know some Scottish people that would punch Ben Shapiro in the face for calling it a dress. But, like, I don't know about you guys, but I think Harry Styles looks a lot more manly than Ben Shapiro, even in a dress. But don't get it wrong. Ben Shapiro loves stories like this. Ben Shapiro gets a lot of play. I am thoroughly convinced that he does shit like read the lyrics to WAP or talk about Harry Styles in a dress. Because one, it's good red meat for his base. Be transphobic, homophobic, against the gender non-binary folk out there. But two, it gets people like me, it gets the Majority Report, it gets the leftist media making fun of him, and in turn helps boost his numbers. My opinion on the claims that there is voter fraud. Well, those claims are bullshit, and Trump's own lawyers have stated that in court, so...
I mean, this is overt in the article. I'm not making it up. I already read you the segments from the Vogue magazine article. Okay, so my friend Candace Owens tweets out, quote, "There is no society that can survive without strong men. The East knows this. In the West, the steady feminization of our men, at the same time that Marxism is being taught to our children, is not a coincidence. It is an outright attack. Bring back manly men."
I want one of these dumb fucks to tell me what Marxism means. I don't think a one of them can define it. The steady feminization. How does Marx's critique of capitalism have anything to do with steady feminization? And what's wrong with feminization to begin with? I don't understand. And bring back manly men. Harry Styles is way more manly than Ben fucking Shapiro.
Okay.
Maybe not Candace Owens, though.
What exactly is controversial about this? That masculinity is a good and important thing when channeled properly. It requires men to defend family. It requires men to provide. It requires men to channel their aggressive instincts towards defense of values and civilization. It requires assertiveness. Aristotle talks about masculinity in exactly these sorts of terms. Harvey Mansfield has an excellent book called Manliness, all about masculinity and what distinguishes it from femininity. Now, it's not that the left doesn't acknowledge these are qualities. The left fully acknowledges the qualities of masculinity and femininity, right? Which is why they suggest that there are a wide variety of genders, because
I constantly tell people, you keep talking, you'll get your fucking face punched by a guy wearing sparkly fingernail polish.
Just that a man can be very feminine, and this actually makes him a woman, right? So they agree that this means that there is such a thing as masculinity and femininity. They then just suggest that men should act like women, right? That masculinity should be made more feminine.
What does it mean to act like women? These are gender normative roles that we have invented. What does it mean to act like women? I don't understand, especially in a guy. And a guy that's talking in this kind of voice is telling us all about masculinity. Hold on. Hassan Piker had a great fucking tweet. Ben, you're 5'3", can't grow facial hair, and weigh 100 pounds soaking wet. If we can both be considered men, you should probably be a bit more open-minded about gender expressions. It's clearly not as rich in a binary as you try to imply it is. Hassan's awesome.
Men more feminine when you suggest that men need to be like women. They need to wear dresses, right? That this undermines some fundamentally
No. Nobody is saying you need to wear a dress. I think what people on the left, the open-minded free thinkers of us, say, who gives a shit if you wear a dress? Wear a dress if it makes you feel good. Do it. Who cares?
Men. In the same way that if you said that women ought to act like men, it's funny. If you say that women ought to act more like men, this is considered sexist because it actually is sexist. But if you say that men ought to act more like women, this is considered progressive and forward thinking.
Who says that?
Feminized men is ongoing on the left. Okay, so this prompted me to defend Candace's comments. And I said, this is perfectly obvious. Anyone who pretends it is not a referendum on masculinity for men to don floofy dresses and then be celebrated by magazines like Vogue is gaslighting you. masculinity and femininity are categories. They exist. Right? Some behavior is more masculine, like punching people in the face. Some behavior is more feminine, like wearing floofy dresses.
I know plenty of women that would punch him in the fucking face. What is he talking about, this referendum? This guy is acting like there's going to be some fucking army that's going to march into his studio and make him wear a dress. By the way, his wife is a doctor, in case you didn't know.
Right, there are many different forms of masculinity and femininity. The most important form of femininity is bearing and rearing children. Okay, that is something that is endemic biologically to female mammals of all species, is bearing and rearing their young, right? And it is endemic for men and males of all mammalian species to be more aggressive, right? These are just biological realities. To pretend that they are social constructs entirely is completely idiotic and anti-scientific and anti-evidentiary. Masculinity and femininity do exist. And not only that, how does this tie into the whole dress conversation? Outward indicators of masculinity and femininity exist in nearly every human culture, right? We train little boys to be masculine and we train little girls to be more feminine. We try to...
Thank you. Train. You hit the nail on the head. This is not a natural concept. It doesn't occur in nature, Ben. It is a human construct, you dumb fuck.
Breed out of them the toxicity of masculinity or the toxicity of femininity. We try to use civilization to civilize children, but boys are boys and girls are girls, right? And these are important things. Boys ought to be allowed to act like boys. Girls ought to be allowed to act like girls.
It's not a binary thing, motherfucker. By you saying boys and girls, you are eliminating a whole, it's quite a few people. There's a whole group of people that don't fit into those categories. Whether they be born with no sex organ, born with both sex organs, born with penises that are so small, doctors think they're clits. Born with clits so big that doctors think they're penises. Just because the vast majority of people fall within 2 standard deviations of the mean in the normal curve doesn't mean that that's the default. Ben, that's some statistical analysis for you. Where's your fucking science that you claim to have?
Boys are taught to be more masculine in virtually every human culture. This is not a Western-centered thing. Boys are taught to be more masculine in virtually every human culture because the role of men is not, in fact, always the same as the role of women. There can be crossover. Men and women can do very many of the same jobs. But to suggest that men and women are identical and they are widgets created by social conditioning is just bullcrap.
Nobody suggested that.
It's scientifically true. It is a violation of actual scientific biology. There are differences between men and women.
Whoa, what? Mario Lopez is getting fired because he was being interviewed in the topic of young kids getting gender changes? He rightly said parents are crazy. I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't think kids are getting gender changes. That's not true. Some children get puberty blockers so that they can make that decision when they get older. That's perfectly fine. I did not know about the Mario Lopez thing though. Let's Google it. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's Bing it. When did this happen? I'm not seeing anything about it. But what if that's what Mario Lopez said? That is transphobic, and it's misinformed. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and we shouldn't tolerate that as a culture. That's a straw man argument. That never happens. I don't know what to tell you. And if you look up gender dysphoria in the DSM, you will see that the treatment for gender dysphoria is to transition. Puberty blockers are incredibly safe. I would say that Mario Lopez shouldn't talk about shit that he doesn't know about. And that's with everybody. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't make stupid comments. You won't get in trouble.
On the broad range. That does not mean that there's not, again, men who act more like women or women who act more like men. They're not more effective.
With Kajabi, it's easy to take the knowledge you already have.
Damn it.
And
all right, back to Ben.
Right, all of that exists. But the fact that there is a spectrum of human biology does not mean there are not poles. There are indeed poles.
Thank you. He acknowledges it's a spectrum. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. It's not a pole. It's a normal curve. Like all naturally occurring traits. They are distributed on a normal curve, Ben. There's not poles.
Right, as in P-O-L-E-S, there are poles, masculine and feminine. The left knows this. In fact, the point of the Harry Styles photo shoot is to violate those poles, right? Is to feminize masculinity. Olivia
No!
herself. The idea is to rethink masculinity as femininity, to feminize men.
No, I think the point of a Harry Styles photo shoot is that motherfucker likes wearing dresses. He's a creative person. He's very in his own head. Much like I wear fingernail polish on stage. It's just him being him and expressing himself. And you're reading too much into it. Like it's the fall of fucking Western civilization or some shit. God damn.
To get rid of toxic masculinity by suggesting that men should act like women. Otherwise, it would not be headline worthy for Harry Styles to put on a dress. Right? If it were just about Harry Styles, again, playing with dress the way he says that it is, then he would have dressed up as a giant baby in a diaper with
I don't think it's headline worthy that he dressed up in a dress to begin with. The only reason I'm talking about it is because dumb fucks like you talked about it. And this will probably be one of my most watched videos on YouTube because shit like this tends to get a lot of views.
With a pacifier, right? Like, he's not doing that. He's dressing up in a women's gown because he's attempting to make a point, which is that men should be more like women. Right? And the left knows this. They know this. They openly say that
you should let children choose their gender identity.
Right?
You shouldn't force them to play with pink toys or blue toys. Or to play with trucks if you're a boy, or dolls if you're a girl. It's okay to play with dolls if you're a man or a boy. There are such things as tomboys. We have a very skewed understanding, and Ben even admitted it. All these norms are just constructs. And a lot of it is society forcing it on people. And there are so many people who are repressed. That's why suicide rates are so high in the LGBT community. Because society tells them they're wrong or they're sinners or some shit. But they're just wanting to express themselves as free individuals. And idiots like Ben Shapiro have a problem with it.
They say that gender is actually inborn, but also socially constructed, right? They want it both ways. They say that gender is a social construction, and that femininity is just men cramming down the patriarchy on women. But they will also say that gender, which is the manifestation of biology, right? But they don't think so. They think the gender is just your femininity or masculinity is actually inborn and inherent to you. So they say that a man can be a woman, even though there's no biological underpinning. So gender is real, but also it's socially constructed.
Well, he's wrong on that. The brains of trans people are different. Sorry, Ben. Get your science straight. Thought your wife was a doctor. Didn't you go to Harvard?
It's all self-contradictory. But let's assume for a second the honesty of some folks on the left who at least acknowledge that femininity and masculinity exist. They also have indicators, outward indicators. Dress has been, for virtually all time and in virtually all cultures, an outward indicator, which is why the Bible explicitly says that
dress has been forced on people. And I'm glad that I was trying to pause it before that, but hey, he brought up the Bible. Yeah, it's been a religious thing. The way you dress has been forced on you by religion.
it is against cross-dressing, for example. Okay, but in virtually every culture, men and women dress differently. This does not mean that all men dress the same and all women in all cultures dress the same. It means that in every culture, there is a distinction between how men dress and how women dress. The stupidest form of the argument that I saw yesterday.
You call it a normal opinion. What does normal opinion mean? It's a misinformed opinion is what it is, because I explained it to you. Mario Lopez doesn't know what he's talking about. He said some shit that's transphobic. So, bye-bye. Mario Lopez isn't that funny either.
Yesterday online was, well, in Scotland, they wear kilts. That means that a man in America wearing a skirt, a floofy skirt, is the same as a man in Scotland wearing a kilt. No, because they also distinguish between...
Harry Styles had a kilt on!
Women wear clothes in Scotland, too. It's just that men wear different clothes than men in America. It's the most idiotic thing. People are like, well, yeah, back in Roman times, men wore togas. You understand? Those were basically just dresses. Yes, and women wore a different form of clothing. At the time, women and men were distinguishable by dress. They have always been distinguishable by dress in virtually every human culture. And noting that men wore floofier stuff in the 16th century in Britain does not change the fact that women wore completely different clothing in the 16th century in Britain. Right? This is a category error, you morons. To suggest that because men wore something...
I never said that. You're strawmanning me. Like, I never said that. I said that Mario Lopez was misinformed. I don't think 3-year-olds can decide on much of anything. But yeah, you shouldn't force gender on children. Ben even admitted it. It's a social construct. And there's nobody allowing children to change their gender. Puberty blockers is what we're talking about. They're completely safe. And, like, hey, we have had so many people. That's not what you said Mario was saying. I miscommunication here. I don't understand it. On the topic of young kids getting gender changes, and he rightly said the parents are crazy. But I pointed out, kids aren't getting gender changes. Kids get puberty blockers. That's not gender changes. So that they can make the decision on their own later. And you have to go through a psychological evaluation to have this done. Talk to some trans people, please. I don't know how far we'll get into this one. Whew. This is Tom Cotton on the floor of the Senate trying to give us a tortured history lesson.
A great American anniversary is upon us. 400 years ago this Saturday, a battered old ship called the Mayflower arrived in the waters off Cape Cod. The passengers aboard the Mayflower are, in many ways, our first founders. Daniel Webster called them our Pilgrim Fathers on the 200th anniversary of this occasion. Regrettably, we haven't heard much about this anniversary of the Mayflower. I suppose the Pilgrims have fallen out of favor in fashionable circles these days. I'd therefore like to take a few minutes to...
I have been on the train like this is a competent fascist. Listening to the Majority Report talking about it. It was Matt Bender on yesterday's show. He doesn't have the charisma or the personality to pull it off, and I was like, okay, that's a pretty good point. Now, I somebody else that is angling for a run in 2024 that we need to be worried about is a man by the name of Ben Sass, and he seems to be growing some fucking balls here lately. Staking out his position. I worry about him.
To reflect on the Pilgrim story and its living legacy for our nation. By 1620, the Pilgrims were already practiced at living in a strange land. They had fled England for Holland 12 years earlier, seeking freedom to practice their faith. But life was hard in Holland.
I don't want to have to fact check this whole thing, but they wanted places where they could impose their religion on other people.
Its oppressive reach across the channel. So the Pilgrims fled the old world for the new.
The Puritans were horrendous.
There is a mad Russian.
Did that say Mad Russian? I must be on the hill or something. Yeah, I am.
Safe harbor for their religion. The Pilgrims differed from those settlers who preceded them in the previous century, up to and including the Jamestown settlement just 13 years earlier. As John Quincy Adams put it in a speech celebrating the Pilgrims' anniversary, those earlier settlers were all instigated by personal interests, motivated by avarice and ambition, and selfish passions.
Selfish passions?
By contrast,
I can believe that.
Under the single inspiration of conscience and out of a sense of religious.
I read an article earlier today that talked about how
all aboard the Mayflower felt the
one
same.
of the reasons why they, when they came to the New World,
were known as strangers to the Pilgrims.
and they saw like an abundance, was because like the natives had really cultivated the land.
Financial backers for business reasons. The strangers did not share the Pilgrims' faith, suffice it to say. Winston Churchill, in his History of the English-Speaking Peoples, wryly observed that the strangers were no picked band of saints. So these were the settlers who boarded the Mayflower, which Dwight Eisenhower once characterized
It was an
as
understatement.
a ship that today no one in his senses would think of attempting to use. One can only imagine the hardships, the dangers, the doubts that they faced.
I hope that at some point in time, during like a Halloween episode, the Connors have Roseanne on as a ghost. That would be awesome. I won't hold my breath for it.
While crossing the North Atlantic, the ship linked chronically. A main beam bowed and cracked. The passage took longer than expected, more than 2 months.
I'm not going to be able to make it
Food
through
and
this,
water
guys.
or beer, often the beverage of choice, ran dangerously low. But somehow, through the grace of God and the skill of...
He does not have the charisma to run for president. I am bored as fuck, and we are 3 minutes into
William
this.
Bradford, a Pilgrim leader who's of Plymouth Plantation, is our chief source for the Pilgrim story, recorded those dangers. They had now no friends to welcome them.
I'm definitely not high enough for this. So let's look at the backlash.
No houses or much...
Ilhan Omar had a fantastic response. When your sense of history doesn't go beyond your 3rd grade coloring books, and actual history terrifies you. But now, of course, this provoked a response from some dumb fucks. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the biggest dumb fucks in Congress. Don't even get me started on where you come from. We don't marry our brothers here in America, so I'm not sure who you're calling crazy. What up, Sammy? So they've had quite the heated exchange, it looks like. It's no wonder the squad fully supports Reverend Warnock, and everybody should, and oh my god! I'm from Alabama. We do indeed marry our brothers. I didn't marry my brother, though, I mean, he's a nice guy, I guess. So all the right-wing attacks on Reverend Warnock have made me really like the guy. They went hard on his arrest, I think it was last week. And when you look it up, he was arrested for obstruction of justice or obstructing an investigation because he was demanding that a kid have a lawyer present while the cops questioned him. I'm not usually a fan of religious people, but Reverend Warnock has won me over thanks to the GOP attacks on him. Thank you, Producer Dave. You haven't had me on in a little while. Been feeling lonely. And Ilhan Omar completely agrees with his disgraceful comments about our active service members, veterans, and their families. Thank you, Sammy. I appreciate the support. Elon fires back. Blatant lies from the disastrous insider trading. Yeah. This wasn't Marjorie Taylor Greene. This was Kelly Loeffler, who was caught up in an insider trading scandal at the beginning of the coronavirus breakout here in America. Blatant lies from the disastrous insider trading, QAnon, conspiracy supporting, fear-mongering appointed Kelly. Hasn't even won an election yet. To win an election, you run on ideas, debate your actual opponent, and defend your record, not run against the squad. He fucked up and found out. Omar is so fucking cool. Loeffler fires back. We saw the video of you smiling and laughing while talking about Al-Qaeda and 9/11. Ugh. We know that you funneled millions of dollars to your new husband's consulting firm. Now, that's a story I was going to cover here and we didn't have time. Spent about $2 million for her campaign on the consulting firm that her husband runs. Now that's for video editing, consulting services. In a tight congressional race, $2 million? That's pretty cheap. I actually thought about looking up what her opponent spent. And we know that you're an unabashed anti-Semite. The woman that supported Bernie Sanders for president is an anti-Semite. You should be expelled from Congress, says the woman who hasn't even won an election to be where she is yet. I like that Omar just brushed her off there. If you need help writing a real clapback, I'm here to help. This ain't hit. Try harder. Marjorie Taylor Greene hops back in. You married your brother. Now, she's the QAnon congressperson. Elon calls her the crazy lady. But you have to get off the loony train now that you are in Congress. Actually, she don't. She doesn't. She is from a plus 27 Republican district. She doesn't have to get off the crazy train. Embracing the crazy train is probably what got her elected. I think Omar won that exchange. But this is what happens when you have a Republican Party that's led by a guy that will appoint 2 white nationalists to government roles, not to mention Stephen goddamn Miller, senior advisor to the president. So it's no wonder all these conspiracy theories and racist attacks are coming from that party. From one stupid white lady to another, Sarah Palin has decided to grace us with her presence again. Obama released a memoir and apparently took some shots at
softball interviews to promote a
Sarah Palin.
768-page book. And
listen to Sean Hannity introduce this while I go and get some more
60
beverage.
Minutes, and Barack compared the president to a dictator while lamenting the lack of, quote, institutional norms. All right, Barack, time for a quick Hannity history lesson. In fact, it was you who targeted journalists. That's right, because remember 2013 revealed your administration secretly spied on journalists, including then Fox News reporter colleague James Rosen. You want to talk about institutional norms, Barack? Because how about spying on an incoming administration?
That never happened.
Michael Flynn using a
There's some validity
Clinton bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier to
to the argument about
President
Obama
elect and then President
being hostile to the press.
to fuel a Russia hoax. Because, Barack, I don't remember you or, frankly, any Democrat speaking out about that. Save us the lectures, Barack. And
Well, it wasn't a hoax. We've looked at the Mueller report here numerous times.
Party never accepted election results. 4 years, never-ending harassment, unprecedented, and
I don't ever remember Democrats acting the way that Trump is acting. Ever. And this guy has the nerve to call Obama a hypocrite?
your party and your silence was deafening. So your feigned outrage today, pretty meaningless to everyone except maybe for the sycophants that actually may buy that 768-page bore. And by the way, did you hear one question from Scott Pelley?
Now, I read, what was it, Dreams of My Father? No, it was Audacity of Hope. Dreams of My Father might have been his first one. I read Audacity of Hope during 2008. I'm sure the book isn't a bore. Obama is quite eloquent. And Audacity of Hope was really good. So, sorry, Hannity. Now, I'm no Obama fan either. But I will tell you that that book was very well written. I'm sure better than any trite that fucking Sean Hannity could shit out.
About any of that? No. Crickets. Any questions about Russia? No. Ukraine? No. Quid pro quo, Joe? No. Zero experience, Hunter? No. Lawless acts, violence against police, defunding the police, abuse of power, corruption, the biggest one in the history of the country? Not a word. The mob, the media, the Democrats, they're all united.
Oh, I'm sorry that Obama didn't address your fantasy world and your fucking conspiracy theories.
Interested in getting to the truth, facts, or any serious investigation, and they take on the broadest hypocrisy and double standards. All right, joining us now, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. You know, Governor, I'm looking at what... Man, you're living in Barack's head. I thought for a while I lived in Barack's head because he kept mentioning me for a while during, his run for office. And through Palin, it seemed...
You are correct. It's pure cringe and conspiracies, but I watch it a lot, to be honest with you, because I watch clips like this. I watch a lot of media of left-wing people watching clips of Fox and making fun of them. And probably... that's going to be most of Fox's viewership going forward, is left-wingers making fun of them.
As if the dark spirits that had long been lurking on the edges of the modern Republican Party, xenophobia, anti-intellectualism, paranoid conspiracy.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Do not get it twisted. Sarah Palin is ecstatic that Barack Obama mentioned her in his book. Because now she gets to do Fox News hits again. She was irrelevant.
It's a rich statement. Antipathy toward black and brown folks was finding their way to center stage, and she had no idea what the hell she was talking about. All right.
She didn't.
And I'm like, didn't they peddle the conspiracy theory on Russia for nearly 4 years?
Yeah, that's true. There, Barack Obama with his 700-some page Promised Land book. I guess evidently he thinks that he is one to lead us to the Promised Land. So let's refer to him as Moses. Moses is the master of the politics of personal destruction, which people were so fed up with that a movement began, and they elected someone to hopefully get us on a path to get rid of that politics of personal destruction. But Barack Obama, he just doesn't get
the Moses analogy there. Am I missing something? I thought Moses led the people out of Egypt. What is she talking about? I don't even get the Moses analogy. But she didn't complete the analogy for me to be able to even understand what she was talking about.
Get it. First of all, personally, Sean, in order to let a man's opinion hurt, well, you have to give a little bit of value to that man's opinion. So I'm good there because he does not represent truth.
But there are 72 million people. This is a record for any Republican to ever get in an election. All right, razors thin margins. And he was elected twice. And when you hear smelly Walmart Trump supporters and irredeemable deplorables, or back when you were running bitter Americans that cling to God, guns, Second Amendment, Bible, religion, I think it's revealing, because what is he saying?
Boy, was that ever true.
That it seems like it's against any American that doesn't support him.
There's a cross behind her. I'm surprised there's not a couple of guns behind her.
Or his views, which are radical.
Right, and I think that the media, the lamestream...
Boy, howdy, if he thinks Barack Obama is a radical, shit.
This whole issue, an issue of attacks on Donald Trump and his personality or his tone or his mannerisms, whatever. But really, America has to remember that the left, led by Barack Obama and still Hillary Clinton. And
any day I get to make fun of Sarah Palin is a great fucking day.
Yes, they call us deplorables and chumps.
Thanks for asking. How was your day?
And all that. They're after what it is that we represent. What I hope it is that we represent, because I want to represent it, is truth. And that is what Barack Obama is so absent from embracing because of his false accusations and his unfounded criticisms. There's proof after proof.
I didn't even know the name of the book. And that's another thing. Right-wingers do such a great job of making me, like, I wouldn't know who the fuck AOC was when I did if they hadn't have just went hard on her, and then I realized, oh shit, she's awesome. Same thing with Ilhan Omar. So thank you, right-wingers. I had no clue what the name of Barack Obama's book was until we watched this.
Untruths. Our country has to love truth. We have to be seekers of truth. We have to be willing to follow truth. And there are so many untruths that Barack Obama is leading people towards still.
Give us an example.
A truth is that only law and order will usher in peace and prosperity. The sanctity of life, that is a truth, is that we...
Law and order is a fucking dog whistle for militarization of the police.
We should protect life. The Democrats' platform is the antithesis of that, the provision.
She says, as Republicans have gotten 250,000 people killed. They bitched nonstop about 4 people in Benghazi. For months, years. 250K dead. And they're still arguing about masks on the Senate floor while their fucking constituents are in bread lines. Sanctity of life, my ass.
It's okay to kill a baby in the womb. There are so many things that Barack Obama stands for still.
And I've got a post. I can't remember what it's a pastor that posted it. I've got it saved on my Facebook anytime anybody brings up abortion. Because it nails it perfectly. When you mention the unborn, or when you mention abortion, it's just performative bullshit where you can act pious without actually having to do anything. And He lays it out like, all the people that Jesus actually speaks about, the poor, the downtrodden, blah, 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 blah. You can brush them aside and still act pious because you can do this performative nonsense for the unborn. So I'm just tired. You are not coming to the argument in good faith if you're talking about the unborn or fetuses.
Doesn't get it. That the solution to our problems in this country, it all comes down to simply loving truth. He does not represent nor love truth.
There was a study a few years ago that came out. People that watch Fox News are less informed than people who don't watch any news at all. I want to say this is probably like 10 years ago. It was around maybe 2011, 2012. Because the Daily Show was still, Jon Stewart was still on the Daily Show. Because like viewers of the Daily Show were way more informed than people that watch Fox News. You're excited. I had the Mueller report highlighted, all the shit in it. Russia hoaxed my ass. Don't think I don't pull this out. Violated U.S. criminal law. Numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government. The investigation established that several individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign lied to the office of the special counsel. But they love truth. Truth is just a buzzword to them. Now, he mentioned the vaccine. Geraldo Rivera had an idea I'm sure he thinks is brilliant about the vaccine.
Tuesday, November 17th, the recount and audit and other lawsuits, etc., continue unabated throughout the country. Nothing found
getting thrown out,
though, would influence the final tally on the vote. For instance, probably the most glaring inconsistency came out of Georgia and that hand audit they're doing in Georgia. They just turned up 2,600 uncounted ballots in a single county. When they factored in those found ballots,
Joe Biden got 8,000 more votes.
Gain to President Trump of 800 votes. Biden's margin in Georgia is 14,000 votes, so the 800, while cutting into that 14,000, obviously does not alter the result. And that is the finding throughout the land, despite the voter discrepancies and the dubious counting methods as they continue to raise questions about the legitimacy of close counts in the battleground states. Nothing found so far affects the bottom line outcomes anywhere. Clark County, Vegas, another example. They've just thrown out the results of the county commissioner election there because the tally got funky.
Whoa!
If there is a redo in Las Vegas,
What's up, Nine Tails?
Trump, who lost that county by over 90,000 votes, may have new life there.
Media winch.
But these are all long shots.
Welcome.
So far, as I said, nothing changes the result.
Producer Dave here too. If you guys have not heard this yet, wait till you hear what Geraldo has to say.
Official result, or the unofficial official result that we've had so far. How's this as an idea for conciliation? Putting aside the
welcome, guys.
We recognize the indispensable role played by Donald Trump in getting the first vaccine against the coronavirus to market. Thanks to his Operation Warp Speed, he may be more responsible than almost anyone in cutting that development time to months rather than years. Honor him. Let's call the vaccine the Trump. I got my Trump. You get your Trump, I got my Trump.
What do you guys think about the idea of naming the vaccine after Donald Trump, whose incompetence killed 250,000 people? Probably going to kill another 500,000 over the winter. Yeah, I think Geraldo has lost it, even though from time to time he does stand out as a voice of reason.
Trump's legal team says it has enough evidence to overturn.
But I mean, this is a clip from The Five. All of them. He wants to name any vaccine after Donald Trump. Get your Trump.
The results of the 2020 election. Watch.
Because there's not a singular voter fraud in one state.
We played this already. Let's go here we go.
Totally irresponsible. We won't show you that, so we can get around the circle here. Let's start with you, Jesse, for a reaction.
Well, it was a big shot of adrenaline today. Remember, during this whole Russia collusion thing, they had zero eyewitness testimony to say that I saw the Trump campaign collude with Russia. Rudy Giuliani.
I could just pick 5 random people off of the street and put on a better show than The Five.
Play out. what I saw the case to be is this. They're saying, do not certify the fraudulent.
His alien? Are you talking about his son? We talked about his son testing positive for coronavirus earlier. Definitely looks like an alien.
It consists of two pillars. One, these sworn affidavits signed under the penalty of perjury that say they witnessed fraud. And two...
No. The affidavits he is referring to are just absolute bullshit. Affidavits where people have said, oh my God, this person was wearing a BLM shirt. Or that they saw ballots coming in from the military for Biden and they thought that was odd. That's the kind of affidavits he's talking about. That's what Kayleigh McEnany was waving around on Fox News the other night.
Circumstantial evidence and whistleblowers. Remember, we used to like whistleblowers, and whistleblowers saying that some of the software was manipulated to add...
Okay, so you pose an interesting question. What will happen to Fox News? Because they are losing viewers at a rapid pace. They're going to OAN. They're going to Newsmax. They're going to right-wing news. Fuck, I keep forgetting what that one place is called. NTD. There's so many outlets. They're trying to siphon. Yes, Don Jr. got it. Rick Scott got it. So many people. And Rudy is in... isolation right now in quarantine. I said last night when we were playing the clip of Rudy sweating all over the place, which Matt Bender on the Majority Report yesterday pointed out, hey, maybe Rudy's sick. I didn't even think about that. But as I'm watching Rudy, I yelled, I can't believe this guy hasn't contracted coronavirus yet. Because he's been flying all over the place, never wearing a mask. And then we get the news today, his son has coronavirus. I don't think Rudy is going to get the coronavirus because I don't think Rudy Giuliani is human.
Biden votes. That's obviously going to have to be looked into. They're going to need a court order to seize some of those machines and do a forensic analysis, and they're up against the clock on that. But if you do have a pattern here, and that's what he's alleging, there's a conspiracy that's happening in all of these...
He was sweating profusely, though, which might be a symptom of coronavirus.
Inputting fraudulent or invalid Biden votes that needs to be looked into. They have 200 sworn affidavits alone in Wayne County, in Detroit, saying they were backdating ballots that came in after Election Day. They were allowing...
Oh, that was a bullshit story.
They have 3 sworn affidavits that said a van came at 4:30 in the morning, dropped off garbage can filled ballots, and then they were illegally counted.
If I remember that story correctly, if it's the same thing he's talking about, it was a camera crew, and they had a wagon carrying their camera equipment into the building.
Sometimes processed 3 times in a row and tabulated when they thought that no Republican poll watchers were there. And they go through states. They say there was
Never happened.
There was double counting, there was overvoting, voter intimidation in Pennsylvania. They said the equal...
Yeah, I hadn't heard that one.
In Wisconsin, they say the state constitution was violated when they sent out hundreds of unsolicited ballots.
It's very normal. I sweat profusely while I'm doing the show.
We'll see what happens.
Come on, Jesse. I mean, really.
Come on, Geraldo.
The Clinton Foundation, George Soros, Hugo Chavez. I'm probably the only person in this building I've actually met Hugo Chavez.
As I said last night, that press conference was conspiracy bingo right there. They threw everything at the wall.
I didn't say anything about that.
Hugo Chavez couldn't make the red lights work in Venezuela.
I talked about the sworn affidavits.
And an international conspiracy. Why not Elvis? You know,
I didn't mention anything like that. I'm talking sworn affidavits. You're a lawyer, Geraldo. You're a lawyer. As a lawyer, you should recognize the validity
the president.
of that.
I wanted him to win this election.
Why?
What I saw with Rudy Giuliani, who I've known for decades, was bizarre. It was unfocused. There was conspiracy theory, this and that. When you have evidence that you suggest, what's the lawsuit?
Yeah, Geraldo is not a dumb man.
What's the action? You can't go to a court and say, it's fraud, judge, prove it for me, or is the FBI to prove it for me?
They
it's
have
not the way
3
it happens.
pending lawsuits right now.
I love Greg Gutfeld keeps making
They drop Michigan,
and then there's going to be a judge that's going to rule on the evidence.
We're giving false hope.
Geraldo, you as an American should want everybody to be confident in the results of the election.
False hope.
And if you don't pursue these
He's killing me.
half the country is going to feel like it was crooked. You don't want that. And
half the country already feels like it was crooked. You're never going to change those people's minds. I don't know if I'd call him the dumbest person on that stage because fucking Jesse Waters, that dude's pretty fucking dumb. I actually used to enjoy gut-filled Waters. Okay. Yeah, he doesn't know when to shut up. Now, last week we reported on the oldest member of the House testing positive, a Republican. Today we find out that the oldest member of the Senate, Chuck Grassley, has tested positive. Also a Republican, of course. So Grassley tweeted out, "I've tested positive for coronavirus. I'll be..." I like that he used the B, not B-E. Those damn Twitter character limits. I wouldn't know, though, because they don't allow me on Twitter. "I'll be following my doctor's orders, CDC guidelines, and continue to quarantine. I'm feeling good. We'll keep up on my work for the people of Iowa from home. I appreciate everyone's well wishes, prayers. Look forward to resuming my normal schedule soon." We all look forward to resuming our normal schedule, Chuck. But unfortunately, we have assholes just trying to make this worse. This is Dr. Scott Atlas on Fox News with Martha McCullum. I don't even know who that is.
Joining me now is Dr. Scott Atlas, Special Advisor to the President and Stanford University's Hoover Institution Senior Fellow. Dr. Atlas, good to have you back on the program tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So,
is she like some kind of Nancy Grace clone?
Something that got some attention, which happens sometimes, and this was about resisting and rising up against some of these new lockdowns and advisories that everybody is hearing about. You said the only way this stops is if people rise up. This was in reaction to Governor Whitmer. You get what you accept. Hashtag freedom matters. And here's what President-elect Biden said.
The freedom not to die of COVID? God damn, these people are stupid. I'm not excited about a Biden administration by any stretch of the imagination, but he's been spoon-fed some absolute bullshit. Yeah, I got a little tongue-tied yesterday on the show, and it resulted in a new hashtag, spoon-fed. This guy is spoon-feeding the morons that watch Fox News a whole bunch of bullshit.
Said in his press avail today about that comment. Let's watch.
The idea that president's now existing, remaining advisor on COVID is saying that they should resist. What the hell's the matter with these guys? What is the matter with them? It's
Thank you,
totally
Joe.
Irresponsible. Irresponsible.
How would you respond to that, Doctor?
Well, adding to the list of things I'm not very good at Twitter.
He's going to respond by being even more irresponsible. I'm calling it right now.
And I take responsibility for what I tweeted. I didn't mean anything, I think, that people are inferring from that. And I clarified it right afterwards, and I wish you would have shown that. Because what happened was, what I meant was, in response to the literally thousands of emails I get from people all over the country begging me to figure out how to end the lockdowns. I get emails, I would say, every couple of weeks from someone who has had a family member commit suicide because of the lockdown.
First of all, what lockdown? As far as I know, everything is fucking open. My favorite barbecue joint was open. What lockdowns is he talking about? There are still some restrictions in place. Apparently you can't go to a restaurant after 10 p.m. in New York City or some shit. There are no lockdowns. We never even really had a lockdown. When we were locked down, about 50% of us were still going to work. So I do not know what he's talking about.
I have people begging me to do anything I can to end the lockdown. And so what I meant, and I'm sorry I'm not very articulate on Twitter, is basically if you want to change things, you have to have your voices heard. I didn't mean anything more than that. I think that's obvious in the United States. I didn't mean to threaten or incite violence. I, in fact, tweeted that several times. So I don't think I meant mass pandemonium, some sort of mass resistance.
We're talking about a governor who has already had a plot to kidnap her that you were tweeting about, you irresponsible piece of shit.
If you have a desire, it's going to come from the people. The government's not going to end the lockdowns. This is a state issue. It's not a federal issue. Now, I would like to say that I have a lot of commonality with your previous guest in terms of understanding that, yes, there are more cases in the winter. Yes, there are more cases indoors, and we know this with this virus, and that's the problem. When you lock down, and because we had states that were restricting businesses, restricting activities, we forced cases.
Restricting. There you go.
In this season, when you cannot social distance, it's exactly this reason why it's more dangerous now that we slowed cases from coming up into the winter. You can't social distance from your elderly family member when you can't go outside. So yes, I agree we should have activities outside. Yes, I agree we need ventilation. Yes, we should reduce large group indoor activities, use social distancing. We need to protect our vulnerable, high-risk senior family members.
So how do you do that? You want to restrict mass gatherings, how do you do that? With restrictions on businesses, correct? This guy is talking out of both sides of his ass.
These things I completely agree with. There's nothing there that isn't agreeable. But what the problem is, I don't agree you should close schools. I don't agree you should not have in-person learning. I don't want to see the figure that 1 in 4 American college students, 1 in 4, age 18 to 24, thought of killing themselves in June.
Pay them money! Pay people money to sit home and jack off. College students will be more than happy to stimulate the economy by buying a PS5 or a new Xbox and sit at home and play video games. That's how you slow the spread of coronavirus. Not by these haphazard restrictions on business where businesses are still going to suffer breakouts, outbreaks. God, I'm getting tongue-tied again. Businesses are still going to suffer outbreaks. They're going to see reduced patronage because there's a fucking pandemic going on. It's the government's job to help people. And you are derelict in your duty.
Because of the lockdown. I have children that age myself. We know what they're suffering from with isolation. And this kind of isolation is one of the unspoken tragedies of the elderly who are now being told, don't see your family at Thanksgiving. For many people, this is their final Thanksgiving, believe it or not.
Yeah, because they're going to die of COVID because of idiots like you.
Advocating, which is a whole person, whole health policy. It's not about just stopping cases of COVID. We have to talk about the damage of the policy itself. So what does the federal government do? It's what I've advised. It's what the administration has been doing. We supply resources. We do everything we can to target high-risk seniors inside nursing homes, outside nursing homes. We give resources. We give personnel to hospitals who request them. The administration has developed Operation Warp Speed, this incredible drugs like the Lilly drug, reducing hospitalizations of high-risk seniors by 70%. The vaccine approvals, these are the timelines, by the way, that me and the president were pilloried for saying. Yet these timelines were correct, and these people should admit that they were wrong.
I think Trump said we were going to have a vaccine before the election.
Resources where it's needed. We want to protect the elderly, but we cannot lock down.
Understood. And that is what you have said.
Once again, railing against these imaginary lockdowns, here is QAnon representative Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how gyms are small businesses that have been devastated by the government-mandated shutdowns. So she posted this of herself in her room because she can't go to a gym in Washington, D.C. That's exactly what he's wanting. But now, as people pointed out on Twitter, there are multiple gyms that are open. Your hotel gym is open from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. False. This woman is a dangerous liar. They have capacity limits for the reason Dr. Atlas just stated. At a dirty Ramada. Always enjoy the Horse Whisperer account. And here is a stunning statistic I saw. 300 companies that received Paycheck Protection funds have filed for bankruptcy. Why? Because we didn't do rent freezes. We didn't do mortgage freezes. And we haven't been paying people to stay home. So these small businesses that they claim to care about, now they don't actually care about small businesses. This is about keeping the multinational conglomerates open. Small businesses are suffering because the government isn't providing them the funds that they need to be able to weather this storm. There's no other way around it. And I'm tired of this fantasy world that the right-wingers live in. These people are not just morons. They're absolutely dangerous. Another story I saw today that just floored me. Mall Santas.
The pandemic has impacted everyone's job this year. It's even forcing the hardest working jolly old man during the holidays to make some big changes. Santa is making adjustments so that he can
Mall Santas
keep everyone healthy
behind plexiglass.
Wherever Christmas cheer is...
Why are malls even open?
But due to the pandemic, meeting Santa will look a little different this year.
We all have to adapt.
Which includes no more one-on-one connection.
It'll be really tough because that is a lot of the true spirit that comes out with the interaction between children and Santas.
But those interactions will have to be limited to avoid COVID exposure. Santa will do some interactive Zoom meetings. In some parts of the North Pole, kids can do drive-bys.
Cars will drive by and either
gonna pull a drive-by on Santa.
Helpers will give the children a little treat or gift of some
I bet he's
sort.
packing too. I bet he's got a Glock in that beard.
Wonderland at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop will require online reservation prior to arriving. You'll have to have a temperature check, and when you get up to meet the big guy, it's going to happen through a plexiglass. The picture will be using the divider, and Santa will be wearing a face shield as well.
Going to be a little bit different this year, but overall,
Capitalism is a virus.
some semblance of normalcy with Santa.
And his crew of sanitation elves on
But if we don't do this, the entire system is going to collapse. It's probably going to collapse anyway.
And they are also instituting safety guidelines, including social distancing and masks. They encourage visits to their websites for details. While parents may understand the changes, kids might have a hard time adapting. So it's important Santa continues delivering his holiday message.
Love, hope, and joy.
Thank you.
Oh, it's going to be so different, our holidays. But you know what? At least
Oh.
still see Santa.
I'll tell you who gives a fuck.
Well, many of the stores
Stockholders
have new protocols in
at Macy's, Walmart. It's amazing how much our country depends on the Christmas season. for its economic growth. So it's no wonder all these conspiracy theories and racist attacks are coming from that party. And when you have leaders like that, you end up with plots like what happened to the governor of Michigan. And I saw this story a couple of days ago, and I didn't look at it. Oh my God. Let's listen to some of the details of the plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer.
Alan, there was a plan B that militiamen had drawn up that involved a takeover of the Michigan Capitol building by 200 combatants who would stage a week-long series of televised executions of public officials. And according to government documents now on file in Lower Michigan, there was also a Plan C, burning down the State House, leaving no survivors.
My client is going to leave his house when this hearing concludes. And unless you tell him otherwise, he's going to go straight to the sheriff's department and turn himself in.
In southern Wisconsin this afternoon, the 14th man charged in the plot, Brian Higgins, is closer to extradition to Michigan, even as prosecutors there pile on new, even more outrageous accusations against the men. First, the charge threat that Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer was to be kidnapped and possibly killed. Now, government court records cite subplots to stage an armed takeover of the state capitol here in Lansing and televise the executions of politicians over the course of a week, with no one, they said, coming out alive. In an interview with the I-Team last week, Michigan's Attorney General, who's prosecuting some of the militiamen, discussed the domestic terror threat.
Now, these guys all think they are patriots standing up for freedom because they've been spoon-fed. Inside joke. They've been spoon-fed all these conspiracy theories. It's fucking terrifying. And these are the same people that are threatening me all over Parler, telling me they're going to dox me. There are way more of them than I ever would have thought.
A few states that does not ban guns in our state capitol building. And clearly there have been threats made on the lives of our legislators. You probably saw the pictures back from in April where we had armed gunmen, some of them the same defendants in this case, that were hovering over state senators with long guns, screaming and yelling at them as they were deliberating, as they were discussing legislation, and as they were
that's
voting.
Good.
So that remains a big concern to me and a very scary scenario.
Fear that bleeds over to Illinois.
We have threats that stream into my office daily while we have watched the kidnapping plot against the Michigan governor unfold just a state away.
Parler is one of the shittiest user interfaces that I've ever seen. But it's slightly better than Rumble, which is insanely hard to use. And you try to upload a 6 or 7 minute video to Rumble, it takes 40-50 minutes. Right-wing media and their platforms suck ass. It's almost like all the smart people are on the left. Mindspace.
Despite the violent nature of the charges, including an alleged plan to hold a mock treason trial for the governor of Michigan once she was kidnapped, several of the defendants there have had bond reductions and are now free. The Wisconsin defendant, Brian Higgins, who appeared in court today, was free until his surrender for extradition, but his attorneys are expected to request a low or no bond when he finally goes before a judge in Michigan. Judy, Alan?
Now, Joe Biden met with the heads of corporations and union leaders today. Now, what did he have to say?
We build back better. We'll do so with higher wages, including a $15 minimum wage nationwide, better benefits, stronger collective bargaining rights that you can raise a family on. That's how we build back the middle class better than ever. That's how we make sure workers are treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. I can go on. You can tell I was very encouraged by our conversation. But the point is this. There's so much we can do. The only way we do any of this is if we work together. I know we can do this. For example, on the call, I made it clear to the corporate leaders. I said, I want you to know I'm a union guy. Unions are going to have increased power. They just nodded. They understand. It's not anti-business. It's about economic growth, creating good paying jobs.
Yes, anytime a company is unionized, it actually raises the wages of all the people around the company that's unionized. Unions are a good thing, and I'm glad Joe Biden brought that up, because over the weekend, Friday night, a WWE wrestler by the name of Zelina Vega tweeted she supports unionization. As you can see by this screenshot 27 minutes ago, 10 minutes after she tweeted this, WWE has come to terms on the release of Zelina Vega. We wish her all the best in her future endeavors. Now, this has been a story that's been brewing for a while inside the WWE. Over the summer, they announced that they would like to, or that they are going to, take any of the revenue from third-party vendors like Twitch, and that they will have control, and it will go towards their downside on their contracts. So apparently Zelina Vega was launching an OnlyFans account, and that was the last straw and why the WWE decided to fire her. She's actually been in some of their most high-profile segments as of late. Now, the reason I enjoyed this so much is because it prompted a response from one former presidential candidate, Andrew Yang, who has said, I haven't forgotten about Vince McMahon. And if you're unaware, Linda McMahon, wife of Vince McMahon, owner of the WWE, Linda McMahon was actually in the Trump administration. She was the, I forget what the actual title was, the chairperson of the Small Business Administration, up until last year when she left to take a position in a pro-Trump super PAC. So I am no fans of the McMahons by any means. And I am going to root Andrew Yang on in his bid to try to get the workers of the WWE unionized. As it stands right now, they are independent contractors, but they are treated like employees. They are told where they have to be, what time they have to be there. They have strict control over their characters. They're given scripts. So Andrew Yang has been pretty hardcore on the trying to get them to join the SAG-AFTRA Guild.
From someone who is part of the WWE, pointing out to me the story about how WWE was saying, hey, don't go on Cameo or Twitch. And it infuriated me because I know that the WWE has been trying to play it both ways for years, where they're saying on one hand, can't do anything without our say-so, we own you, but you're an independent contractor and we have nothing to do with your health, retirement, any of the benefits you get that would accrue.
They don't get their travel expenses reimbursed?
So to me, you have to make a choice at some point. If you're going to control...
They have to pay for their own hotels?
A wrestler or performer's waking life, then you should take some responsibility, too, for that person. Bigger picture. Maybe, like, if they have a kid, maybe they get some maternity or paternity leave. You know, maybe they get off-season. Maybe they get recovery time. And I say this as someone who's been a longtime fan of the sport. I know you know a lot of the performers well yourself.
Yeah.
They're putting their lives on the line, or their health on the line, their family life on the line all the time. They've made Vince a billionaire. And then the fact that
Vince isn't a billionaire anymore, though.
Heavy-handed about their ability to make a simple buck on Cameo just struck me as so absurd and ridiculous and wrong. And I've been on the side of MMA fighters who are in a similar boat, frankly, with the UFC and Dana White.
Yeah.
And because I got this note from this performer, I said, you know, like,
it's
time that someone calls Vince out for this,
Here comes
particularly
Smokey.
because if Joe and Kamala win, I may be in a position to do something about it.
So I think a lot of people were looking at this.
Hopefully, we're going to have an excellent labor secretary by the name of Bernie Sanders, and he'll be able to do something about it. I'm not sure if I'm all for Andrew Yang having a spot in the Biden administration. But you could do a lot worse, that's for sure. One of them is a senator that seems to be on the bad side of most of the people in the Democratic Party at the moment. Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Wish you didn't have to pay full price for Nintendo gear?
Wish I didn't have to listen to this stupid ad.
Face coverings. Senator Dianne Feinstein has written to federal agencies asking for a mandatory mask policy, both in the air and on public transit.
Exactly.
Well, that was news footage from June, just this June, when California Senator Dianne Feinstein wrote a letter to the FAA demanding everyone wear masks in airports. Feinstein wrote that we need a mandatory mask policy for all airport and airline employees and passengers, end quote. Feinstein claimed the agency had, quote, sowed confusion among passengers about whether masks are necessary. But they are necessary, says Dianne Feinstein. Not wearing them is very dangerous given the coronavirus. Well, given that, today, this show exclusively obtained photographs of, and this is going to rock your world, Dianne Feinstein in a private terminal at Dulles.
Breed Creed is fucking with you. I constantly have to tell people that. He's just fucking with you. Look over him.
Airport, an FBO, as they say in private aviation, on Friday. In the photographs, Feinstein can be seen smiling without a mask on. One might even say she's sowing confusion about whether or not masks are necessary. A pilot with a mask is walking in front of her, carrying a bag and a dog. We reached out
and there's
to
a
Dianne
bag
Feinstein
walking behind him, an old bag.
Back. We can be sure of one thing. This isn't really Dianne Feinstein's fault. Just like when the hair salon...
I'm sorry if you think Tucker sucks, because I think I've got at least one more clip from Tucker tonight to play, unfortunately.
Framed Nancy Pelosi, caught not wearing a mask while getting her hair done. Dulles Airport, the diabolical FBO, probably masterminded the whole thing.
And then she was caught in the halls of Congress, not wearing a mask. Because these rich old hags think that the rules don't apply to them. But I mean, I'm upset because it's giving the right ammo. It is giving them something that they can latch on to
by a woman who is
and claim that Democrats are hypocrites. That's the only time hypocrisy ever matters to Republicans, as we talked about last night. They are shameless. You can point out their hypocrisy all day long. They do not care.
was actually at the French Laundry restaurant the exact same night.
This is Gavin Newsom,
now those photos that she took,
governor of California.
Questions about the governor's claims that the dinner was outdoors, as he has repeatedly claimed. Take a look. Tonight, a Fox 11 exclusive. We've obtained this photo of Governor Gavin Newsom dining at the luxurious French Laundry restaurant in Napa the evening of November 6th. It was a birthday dinner party for Newsom's close friend, Jason Kinney, a well-known lobbyist.
Also, I'd like to point out that this is one of the most expensive restaurants. Apparently, you can't get out of there without $1,000 a plate. That's what I've heard.
And I just happened to look over and realize, hey, is that
Gavin Newsom, who is that? And I did ask one of the waitresses, and she confirmed it was.
We spoke with a woman who happened to be at the...
Well, yeah, but there's always accountability for the Democrats. In order for people to be held accountable, your voting base has to give a shit. And we're living in a world where, 73 million people voted for Donald Trump? They don't care. They don't care that he killed 250,000 people. They don't care that he separated families at the border, locked people up in cages. 666 children missing. Performing hysterectomies. I wish these people would be held accountable.
Restaurant the same night, and she snapped these photos. She asked us not to identify her. When the governor issued his apology on Monday,
just pulling people off the streets in Portland. Insane.
It was in Napa, which was in the orange status, relatively loose compared to some other counties. It was to be an outdoor restaurant.
But the photo appears to show the dinner being mostly indoors, with sliding glass doors opened up for air. The woman we spoke with says at one point those doors were closed because of noise complaints about the group.
It got louder and louder, and so they had some sliding glass doors that they were able to close. So then it was just a closed off room, but you could still hear them. That's how loud they were.
She says the scene was hypocritical.
It was a very large group of people and shoulder to shoulder. Something that he's always telling us not to do. So, yeah, it was a bit annoying, for sure.
A spokesperson for...
Now, granted, they were probably all tested. I'm sure they're all within their groups around people that they see all the time anyway. And also, the governor of California has excellent health care. But still, it's the optics. It's the optics. Why do Democrats keep giving these idiot-ass Republicans ammo?
For Jason Kinney told us, quote, the guests and the restaurant followed all applicable state and county public health guidance. The guests specifically required outdoor seating, and that's outdoor seating as confirmed and provided by the restaurant, end quote. The spokesperson also sent us a photo from Town and Country magazine describing that same area as outdoor seating. Regardless, the governor says he just shouldn't have been there in the first place.
He shouldn't have.
I sat down at the larger table. I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated. And I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house. The spirit of what I'm preaching all.
Or maybe you shouldn't have accepted the invite.
And I got to own that. And so I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice. And I've done my best to do that. We're all human. We all fall short sometimes.
And literally just a few minutes ago, right before this newscast, the governor's team did get back to us. They referred us to his previous apology, and they said they don't want to comment on the specific substance.
At least he did admit it.
Remember, on Monday, the governor said he's going to learn from his mistake. He admitted that he...
Shall we talk about a man in a dress? And his name is the Pope. And apparently, the Pope is kind of horny. The Vatican is probing Pope Francis. God, I can't talk anymore. The Vatican is probing Pope Francis's Instagram liking of Natalia. I've never even heard of her before. Natalia Garabato. Yeah, I fucked your name up. I am so sorry. Oh, it was a booty pic too, eh? He appeared to like a post on her Instagram. Sources told Catholic News Agency that an internal probe is underway into the act involving Natalia Garabato. I assume she's Italian, right? There aren't 30 plus genders. That's not a thing. Nobody said it was. That's a straw man argument. Gender is a spectrum. Most people fall within 2 standard deviations of the mean. So that's like 99.6% of people fall within the normal, that's why it's called the normal curve, distribution of naturally occurring traits. And there is a segment of people that fall outside of that. Gender is a spectrum. There's not 30 genders. That's a stupid joke that right-wingers make, and God, is it played out. News reports surfaced on November 13th that Francis' verified account liked the post, but it was then removed on November 14th. I like the picture they put up next to her. Now, I'd never heard of the woman before, so hey. Because once again, it'll get views on YouTube. Let's check out a video that's the best of her TikTok. Natalia Garabato. Nothing wrong with a little gratuitous booty. Now look at this woman. She could kick Ben Shapiro's ass. I don't know that she's my type of woman, but apparently the Pope was really into her. I turned it off because they're probably using copyrighted music. I'll get a strike on YouTube. We'll watch her dance for a little bit, though. Endorsed by the Vatican. That is exactly how I pick up the TV remote. Now she's wearing pants. Has Ben Shapiro got a problem with that? She's dressing like a man. Is that the downfall of society? But seriously, in a fight, you'd pick her over Ben Shapiro, right? You'd pick me over Ben Shapiro, and that's a shame. I'd love to fight Ben Shapiro. I wouldn't want to fight Ben Shapiro as much as I would like to piss in Dan Crenshaw's eye hole. But I would still like to fight Ben Shapiro. But if I had to pick one or the other, fight Ben Shapiro or piss in Dan Crenshaw's eye hole, I'd piss in Dan Crenshaw's eye hole.